Alright, so today I'm going to go down the list of every single mod done to my DRZ and why you should consider doing these too. Now, a few caveats before I start. One, I'm in no way done modifying this bike. This is just a list of what's on it right now. Two, I spend money where it matters and save money where it doesn't matter. Meaning parts that it's worth it to spend money on, I spend money on. Parts like little trinkets and shit, I'm not gonna waste my money. Third point, this list is in no particular order. I will organize it slightly by performance mods, visual mods, and then kind of everything else. And lastly, I will link every part that I have on this bike in the description so you guys can check them out for yourself. Thank you. Also, let me just say, like, before I get into the mods and stuff, thank you so much to, like, everybody who commented and liked on that last video. It's great to see, man. Like, you come out with the first video, like, you don't really know what to expect, and, like, everything was overwhelmingly positive, and I just, like, I couldn't be more thankful for everybody who engaged and enjoyed that video. Alright, getting into it. We'll start with the performance mods. First off, like every DRZ should be, this bike has the JD jetting kit, and this thing makes a huge difference in power, rideability, how fast this thing warms up in the morning. It just overall changes the bike so much, this JD jet kit. It's super easy to install. You need no experience. I genuinely think that it just unlocks a lot more out of the DRZ from factory. So the JD jet kit comes with several different jets and needles. If you follow the instructions, you'll end up installing the ones that are fit for A, the mods that you have on your bike, like exhaust, no exhaust, and B, the altitude of where you live at. And that's super important, and I'll talk about that in a minute. The next thing that I'll talk about is the MRD Z Pro exhaust. Now, full disclaimer, I did buy the bike with this exhaust on. I didn't necessarily pick it, but if the bike did come with a stock exhaust, I would hope to have arrived at the same conclusion. This thing sounds great, power's great, fits awesome, couldn't recommend more. The MRD exhaust for the DRZ, I'll link that down below. Now, kind of linking that back to the JD Jet Kit, when I bought this bike, it had the exhaust on it, right? But it felt sluggish. It felt a little bit low on power. I go online, I see videos of people just kind of throttling up DRZs. They get up right away. I thought, like, I was doing something wrong, whatever, and then I finally was like, you know what, f it, this bike has to be a little bit low on power. So I assume the bike has an exhaust and it's not jetted, right? I went ahead, I bought the JD Jet Kit, and when I opened up the carb, what I discovered was that the previous owner installed the wrong jet needle combo for A, the exhaust mod, and B, the altitude of where we're at here in Ontario. So I went ahead, I installed the right jet, the right needles, and this thing runs way better now. That's pretty cool. Now, something else that the previous owner had done to the bike was the so-called 3x3 mod. Brother! The 3x3 is just about the first mod that'll come up when you Google, like, how do I make my DRZ faster, or like mods for DRZ or whatever. Everybody says to do it. Even in the instructions on the JD Jet Kit, it does say cut a 3x3 hole in the top of your airbox, 3" by 3". And it makes sense, right? Like, you're getting an exhaust, so you got more air going out. You're jetting the carb, you got more fuel going in. It makes sense that you need to cut a larger entrance hole and balance that out, right? Of course, the nicest stretch of corners. I'm stuck behind this f***ing bus. But I want to link this point to something said by SoCal Supermoto. This guy is an expert on DRZs, tons of experience track, street over the years, and he's presented an interesting point, which is
the 3x3 mod is garbage. It kills the bottom end.
Now, what he suggests is removing the stock snorkel and leaving it at that. Now, this bike, I bought it with the 3x3 cut hole, like it's kind of already done. So quick recap, if you want your bike to run good, JD Jet Kit, get an exhaust, and that 3x3 mod is questionable, man. Like, I can't give you a conclusion right now. All I can say is read what everybody says on the forums about it, and then go see what SoCal Supermoto says about it. I would probably try to do my research a little bit before I start chopping my bike up. Alright, so the next mod, I'm putting it under performance because this made probably the biggest difference in how good this bike is to ride, and that's getting really f***ing good tires. Right now on this bike, I have the Continental Conti Attack SM Evo. So for these tires, I have a 150 in the rear, I have a 120 up front, a 17s obviously. I find the 150 tire size is great compared to the 140 for grip, and it's great compared to the 160 for how quickly this thing kind of turns into corners. I think moving forward on this bike, every time that I have to buy tires, I'm gonna stick with this size and likely this tire. Christ, lady. The last reason why I can advocate for these tires, they're a Supermoto specific tire. So you can buy tires that will fit this bike that are designed for a much heavier sport bike, but the problem is just that they're not designed for a bike that's as light as this. Like, do yourself a favor, get yourself a Supermoto specific tire. It's gonna make plenty of difference. Damn, this thing sounds good. Alright, so stuff I'd classify as performance on this thing: JD Jet Kit, MRD exhaust, 3x3, and we don't know really yet, we'll see, and Continental Conti Attack SM Evo Supermoto tires. This restaurant here is so f***ing good. Shouts out to those guys, just making fire pizzas. Alright, now let's get into cosmetic stuff that I did purely for looks. Alright, so first and foremost, the most obvious thing I think is the paint. This is not a stock DRZ black. I bought this bike, it was white with the OEM 2015 graphics on it, and with the help of a really good paint shop that I'll talk about in a minute, this bike is now Ferrari Nero Daytona black. But when I bought the bike, I knew I wanted to do a good graphics kit and stuff on it, but I wasn't super sure about white as the base color. Instead of just buying new plastics with that kind of cheap looking finish, like I kind of wanted to just set like a really nice base for it. Sketches Inc. custom paint in Ottawa helped me get this thing finished and looking just absolutely nuts. And here we are, 1 of 1 DRZ. If it's not 1 of 1, link him below. Second visual mod, the Acerbis, forgive me if I'm saying that wrong, universal front fender. I'm not a fan of the way the stock DRZ fenders look. I think they stick out way too far. They look old. That's like one of the main things that I think make the bike look super dated. You can buy these things anywhere. I'll link one in the bio below. They're super cheap, super easy. You drill the holes based on the mounting points of your bike. Like, definitely a mod you can't go wrong with. Alright, so next up on my list is leave my signal on. So next up on the list, which is kind of a janky homebrew mod, is these frame sliders. When I got the bike painted, there was no way that I was gonna fuck it up after putting that much effort into it. So I went and I got literal BMX pegs. I cut them down a bit, threaded them through with some threaded rods, some lock nuts. Like, you can tip this bike right on its side and no painted part touches the ground. So obviously I can't link my janky homebrew mods in the description below, but I will link another frame slider kit that you could get if you feel like it. Alright, so next up is a couple of my Chinese anodized gold parts. These are super cheap. I wanted breakaway levers, and I had this really weird thing happen with my stock clutch lever eating clutch cables. And something about how I was grabbing it in here, I was just chewing through them. And like, I'd be riding and then I would just lose my clutch. Since I bought these, A, they're breakaway, which is kind of nice, and B, I haven't eaten through or even barely frayed a single clutch cable. So cheap China mod, I don't care. They work great for me. Kind of along with that, I bought the foot pegs, the shifter, and a brake pedal. The foot pegs I actually bought because I like the little bolt design. I find it gives way more grip than the stock pedals, which are just kind of like spikes. So the next mod is something I think probably made about as much of a difference as the paint did in terms of how much better this bike looks than factory. It's this Chinese tail light that cost me like, I don't know, 10 cents. Oh, I feel like an asshole now. This guy's playing bagpipes and I'm coming through here on the bike. this Chinese taillight made such a big difference because the OEM one is so gross looking. That wind is so nice. I was getting so hot going slow. Alright, and the final mod on my list is this aluminum chain guard, which doesn't really do anything but replaces the huge plastic chain guard that came on these from factory. Now that's kind of it for visual mods, but there's two more mods in a kind of a miscellaneous category that I feel the need to include because they made such a difference in my experience riding this. And first, that's handlebar risers. I mentioned them a little bit in the previous video. If you lift your handlebars and you tilt them outwards a little bit so this is higher, just that difference sets you up for wheelies way better. Even if you don't have risers, take your stock bars, loosen them, rotate your fat bars forward a little bit, and you'll see how big of a difference that makes. And finally, the last thing I'll talk about is upgrade either your entire headlight, like shroud with the glass and everything, to like a KTM style kind of thing, or if you want to keep the stock DRZ headlight shroud and headlight, replace that bulb. I bought on Amazon the upgraded LED bulb, and immediately it made such a difference. Like, completely new experience riding at night with this thing. Headlight is an absolute must. And we're out of the city. Thank you for watching. Please like and subscribe. This is a brand new channel. I have 2 videos out. If you have any questions about anything that I said in this video, leave them down below. I'll try my best to get back to everyone, and we'll see you next time.